For nearly 15 years, millions of television viewers watched Blake Shelton and Kelly Clarkson argue, laugh, and occasionally yell at each other in a way that always felt like real siblings interacting when nobody is keeping track. Both artists have always insisted their bond is like that of a brother and sister, complete with on-air squabbles, disagreements over contestants, and playful insults that fans loved. But underneath all that disorder, some people wondered if something more meaningful was being hidden. Through difficult relationships, a very public divorce, and a harsh legal settlement, they have remained loyal to one another. Still, Blake had never completely expressed what was truly on his mind until a surprising moment during a live broadcast changed everything. The roots of their friendship grew before either became widely famous in each other's world, starting with a shared management team. Both were handled by the same company, directed by Narvel Blackstock, who was married to Reba McEntire at the time, along with his son Brandon Blackstock. This link meant Blake and Kelly traveled through the same professional circles for years before ever having a direct conversation. As Blake later put it, they met occasionally, usually at group dinners where talk moved around the table without either focusing especially on the other. The real shift happened when Blake introduced Kelly to his then-wife, Miranda Lambert. Both women came from Texas. Both achieved fame through reality singing competitions, and they connected right away because of their many shared traits. Blake joked that once the two began talking, it was impossible to get a word in, a fact that seemed to please rather than bother him. That meal created a three-way friendship that would grow stronger over the coming years, marking the moment Kelly stopped being just another industry contact and started becoming something more like family. Blake once called the relationship between him and Kelly so intertwined, using that word to capture how deeply their lives had become mixed. They became friends, and then Kelly became engaged to Brandon Blackstock, who was not only Blake's manager, but also one of his closest friends. The loop closed in a way that made it hard to tell where one connection stopped and another started. The public side of their friendship took off in early 2012, though hints had appeared a few months earlier. In December 2011, Kelly sent a tweet supporting Ron Paul, a candidate running for the Republican presidential nomination, and she quickly faced criticism from fans who disagreed with her views. Without any delay, Blake jumped into the dispute, openly defending her with a tweet that said he loved her, would listen to her opinions anytime, and would not mind punching someone in the throat for her. Kelly replied with a simple thank you and a smiley face, but the point was obvious. This was a man who would not keep quiet when his friend was being attacked. Their first joint stage performance happened in Los Angeles on April 3, 2012, during Kelly's Stronger tour at the Nokia Theater. Blake stepped in for Jason Aldean, who normally appeared as a hologram for their duet Don't You Want to Stay. Reba McEntire also performed with Kelly during the same show, singing Because of You. But the moment between Blake and Kelly carried a different feeling. Kelly introduced him to the crowd by saying she loved him, that he was amazing, that she loved his music, his swearing, and the way he constantly teased people. They played it up and exaggerated the performance just for fun, looking more like two pals singing karaoke than like professionals giving a polished show to a full arena. They also worked together on Blake's Christmas album, Cheers, It's Christmas, released in 2013 and 2014. Nearly 10 years later, on September 19, 2022, Blake appeared on the Kelly Clarkson Show to promote the new season of The Voice. Kelly unexpectedly joined him in singing Austin, his first single from 2001. Blake pretended to be surprised, even though the moment was almost certainly arranged. He sang the first verse alone, and Kelly added harmonies during the chorus. At the final line, Blake pointed to Kelly and let her finish the solo ending. After the song, she told the audience that Blake's fans already knew how good the song was, but they really needed to hear the whole thing because that last chorus was excellent. Their connection has always been clear, and everyone knows they have nothing but affection for each other. But that affection would face tests neither expected. When Kelly's marriage to Brandon Blackstock started to break down, Blake found himself stuck between his best friend and the woman he had come to see as a sister. The decision he made and the person he chose to support would expose more about the nature of their friendship than any duet or TV appearance ever could. when a marriage ends between two people who are both deeply tied to the same small circle of friends and coworkers. Those in that circle are forced to pick sides, whether they like it or not. Blake Shelton found himself right at the middle of such a circle in June 2020, when Kelly Clarkson filed for divorce from Brandon Blackstock. Brandon was not just Kelly's husband. He was also Blake's longtime manager and one of his closest friends. The position Blake was placed in would have been awkward for anyone, but the choice he made and the person he chose to stand next to told everyone everything about where his true loyalties lay. Brandon Blackstock worked as a music manager by trade. Through his father, he grew up inside the country music business, learning its patterns and connections from a young age. His clients included Blake Shelton, Rascal Flatts, and eventually Kelly Clarkson herself during the years they were married. He also worked as an executive producer on The Kelly Clarkson Show before the couple separated in 2020, a role that gave him creative and financial control over his wife's TV project. Outside of work, Brandon held a pilot's license, and Kelly often called him by affectionate nicknames that showed playful admiration. She referred to him as Mr. Manly Hunter Pilot Guy in a 2013 interview, and in June 2018, she shared a photo of him with the message that she had married Maverick, adding that he had been flying for years and had finally bought himself a new plane. That kind of public warmth would become harder to remember after divorce proceedings started. Kelly and Brandon first met in 2006 at the Academy of Country Music Awards, when Brandon was still married to his first wife, Melissa Ashworth. Kelly later explained that they stayed in touch as friends for years while Brandon remained married, and nothing happened between them during that time because he was not available. The reconnection happened at the Super Bowl in 2012, when Kelly ran into Brandon again and found out he was now single. She told the Daily Mail that Brandon was her manager's son, that she had known him for 6 years, but he had been married for most of that time. Then suddenly, there he was at the Super Bowl, and he was single. The timing felt like destiny to her, and the relationship moved fast after that. Brandon proposed in late 2012 once his divorce from Ashworth was completed, and the couple married in October 2013 at Blackberry Farm in Walland, Tennessee. They had 2 children together, a daughter named River Rose, born in June 2014, and a son named Remy, born in April 2016. For a while, the blended household seemed to function. Brandon brought 2 children from his first marriage. Kelly had no children of her own before meeting him. Together, they formed a home with 4 kids from 2 different biological mothers. It was complicated, but it also worked, at least from the outside. The numbers told a story Blake could not overlook. During season 14, which aired in 2018, Kelly Clarkson reportedly made $14 million per season. Blake Shelton, who had been sitting in those red chairs since 2011 and had become the face of the show, earned $13 million during that same period. $1 million might not sound like a big difference in the context of multi-million-dollar salaries, but in the world of entertainment negotiations, the message was clear. NBC valued Kelly more than it valued Blake, at least in terms of what it was willing to pay. The background behind those numbers made the gap even harder for Blake to accept. A source told Radar Online that Kelly would not have agreed to be on the show with Miley Cyrus, and that there had actually been a bidding war for her services. NBC saw Kelly as a prize worth chasing aggressively and made her an offer that reflected that view. The plan worked. Kelly joined the show, and the ratings immediately went up. But the plan also created bitterness, because Blake had never been the subject of a bidding war. He had simply been there, reliable and popular, and NBC had rewarded his loyalty with a salary that was suddenly lower than the newcomers. The embarrassment did not stop with Kelly. In season 22, Gwen Stefani reportedly earned $15 million for her turn as a coach, which was $2 million more than Blake earned during that same season. His girlfriend was making more money than he was for doing the same job on the same show. Whether that bothered him privately or not, the appearance was undeniable, and the pattern suggested that NBC considered Blake Shelton less essential to the show's success than 2 different women who had joined the panel long after he had helped build the franchise from the ground up. According to sources, Blake confronted Kelly specifically about the pay gap, and the confrontation was not a calm talk between coworkers. He allegedly exploded at her, as one insider described it, and the argument grew beyond just the issue of money. They argued over what the source called unreasonable things, like the size of a dressing room, which suggests that the pay gap had opened a bigger wound about status, recognition, and who deserved what. When two people are as competitive as Blake and Kelly, small offenses can feel like huge insults. A dressing room is never just a dressing room. It is a symbol of how the network sees you. And the network seemed to be sending a clear message about who mattered more. The on-screen argument that viewers saw during season 14 was mild compared to what happened off-camera. The cameras caught Blake and Kelly arguing over which of them would receive country contestants, specifically a 33-year-old singer named Wilkes and a 28-year-old named Jordan Kirkdorfer. Blake told Kelly directly that she was his friend, but when she was on this show, she was his enemy. When Kelly tried to take one of his contestants, Blake shot back that this was not a dating game but The Voice, and his tone suggested he was not joking as much as the producers probably wished he was. An insider confirmed that the exchange continued off-camera, which was typical for them, but the off-camera version was apparently much less careful about language and much more direct about the hidden tensions. The brother and sister dynamic that both have always used to describe their relationship was never a lie, but it was also never the full truth. A source told Radar Online that they fought and screamed at each other and then got over it, and that Kelly had learned to simply walk away because she could not win an argument with Blake. No one could, the source added, because he was always right, or at least he believed he was. That dynamic worked when the arguments were about small things, like which contestant had more promise or which coach had made a smarter strategic move. It worked less well when the argument was about money, because money is not subjective, and being right or wrong has nothing to do with it. The clarification that followed was important because Blake and Kelly had recorded together before, but never in the way he was now asking. She had appeared on his holiday album Cheers, It's Christmas, lending her voice to his project without asking for anything in return. He had never appeared on one of her studio albums, and the imbalance had apparently been bothering him for longer than anyone realized. He had watched her work with Vince Gill, Jason Aldean, and a dozen other male artists, and he had waited for his turn. The turn had never come. His goal now was simple. He wanted her to include him on one of her upcoming projects, not a live performance, not a TV duet, not a one-off charity single, but a proper studio recording that would exist forever on one of her albums. The request was public, sincere, and it put Kelly in a position where she could not pretend she had not heard it. The history between them made the confession land with unexpected weight. Blake had publicly supported Kelly during the Ron Paul controversy in 2011, offering to throat punch anyone who came after her. He had brought her onto The Voice as a mentor, watched her become a coach, fought with her over country contestants, and ultimately watched her earn more money than he did for doing the same job. He had helped her marry Brandon Blackstock, and then stood by her when the marriage collapsed. Through all of it, the one thing he had never done was appear on her record. Kelly's response to his white whale claim has not been a public commitment, at least not yet. The conversation happened on her own show, and clips of it went viral almost immediately, but she has not announced any plans to include him on an upcoming album. The ball is in her court, as Blake himself seemed to admit when he made the request. He has now stated his wish publicly, and whether she follows through remains to be seen. The confession revealed something that fans had suspected for years, but had never heard confirmed in such direct terms. Blake Shelton loves Kelly Clarkson, not as a romantic partner, but as an equal, a creative partner, and a competitor. He wants to be on her record, because he wants to be remembered alongside her, because he believes their voices belong together in a studio where the microphones are warm and the takes are permanent. He has 30 #1 hits, a shelf full of awards, and a career that most country singers would trade their guitars for. But he does not have that one thing, and now he has finally admitted how much he wants it.